Hello and welcome to another episode of Disaster Empire Quick Views. I'm Ashley Gooseman, and this is the podcast where we talk to innovators and thought leaders in resilience. And I am really happy to have Jason Haas back for a second time to the channel because I got to thinking recently that he would be a great person to bring back on to talk about personal branding and resilience. So Jason, thank you so much for coming back on the podcast. Great to have you here again.
Well, thank you, Ashley, so much for the opportunity again to be on the podcast and to speak to yet another subject that I'm extremely passionate about. So thank you so much.
Great. And exactly. And so I will actually post the link to our first podcast together because you had a great and compelling story about how you got into this business. And so this time I wanted to bring you back to really dive down deeper into personal branding. So let's really get into it. Personal branding, I think, really could bolster a business's resilience. And can you talk about that in terms of adversity, how someone's own personal branding might actually help an organization?
Personal branding, part of it is you want to identify your strengths, values, and unique expertise. In essence, it's kind of a living resume, and it can be a living resume for the individual as well as for the organization, where we get to uplift and talk about things that we're subject matter experts in, or that we believe we're subject matter experts in, and talk about things we're also passionate about. Whether, like for me, I love talking about soft skills because to me, that's a foundational pillar of resilience and how we communicate with each other, which I figure is the first thing we need to do no matter what to move things forward. So I love writing and talking about those things, as well as other topics with resilience, whether it's cyber resilience and impacts to things like MGM or Caesars. And yeah, for organizations, it's also about communicating their brand consistently. It's one thing, that the crisis management and business resilience course at MIT taught me. It's one of my most favorite takeaways. It's controlling that narrative. And personal branding is part of that, is we can control our narrative, build ourselves as subject matter experts and knowledge or thought leaders in our industry and talk about topics that are meaningful to us, as well as for our organizations. It's a way that they can brand themselves and talk about things that are adjacent to the organization or passions of the organization, whether it's a philanthropical type of initiative or whether it's something that they're doing with technology to, fill a gap in the industry that they support. So personal branding is really, really important for both individuals and organizations.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit more about what those key aspects are that someone can build in their personal brand that can contribute to overall organizational or business resilience.
Yeah, part of it is networking. You get to talk to some great people. Like I have this great opportunity right now to talk with Ashley, as well as the listeners and viewers of Disaster Empire. And it's such a neat opportunity when we get to share our passions with others who are, in the similar field. Because I can talk about resilience and things like this with my wife, and she'll glaze over quick and going, oh my gosh, is this guy ever going to shut up? But, here we can talk about it. We have very similar passions and alignments, and we can talk about all those RPOs, RTOs, resilience this, resilience that, controlling narratives. And it's just so important to build that reputation for ourselves. And it's exciting. Here it is early o'clock in Colorado. And here we're talking about, soft skills, how we network and how that enables, building your personal and professional brands. It also allows you to take ownership of that digital presence of yours. Again, controlling that narrative. We're our own best salespeople. We know ourselves best and we know what we know, and we get a chance to, outwardly communicate that with others and not necessarily sell you on that, but, to share that passion going, I really love things, resilience. I also love personal branding. It's a way to sell myself and uplift myself within our community and things like that. So it's important.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think as you were talking about communication, something that has been really uplifting for me over the last few years, especially coming out of COVID and that response, is that members of our business community, be it board members or be it leadership, even frontline, managers and staff, they understand the term resilience, and business continuity or crisis management and all of those other aspects can be a lot more challenging. Really, what is cyber? What is cyber attack? People are understanding that more now, but you say resilience and everyone has a bedrock foundation of what that can mean. And I think it gives you a much stronger footing to be able to talk about that. So if you're someone who's already thinking about that and sharing your concepts or your lens on that, I think it can be really helpful and give you that place to start that conversation and really dive into much more meaningful aspects of that. So along with that, Jason, that I ask all of my guests, what does resilience mean to you? But I wanted to ask you, has it changed? Has your definition changed since the last time we talked?
Well, as resilience is very adaptive and conforms to whatever situation we're in, I'm no different. Resilience looks different to me every day. I never know what I'm waking up to and what I'm going to face in my world. Right now, I've got 2 dogs. I'm on puppy duty right now, and I'm expressing some resilience with that because sleep is limited and challenging, and potty training and everything with a puppy that you forget about. But yeah, it changes day to day. Right now, it's like I need to keep my sanity and get through this puppy phase. So that's personal resilience for me. It's like I've done this to myself. Now I need to work through it. I'm owning my decision. Professionally, there's challenges in the workplace. Everyone has challenges in one way, shape, or form, whether it be political, communication, not happy with your role, whatever that challenge is. And we need to work through it. And that's part of resilience for me is I don't give up. I'm so stubborn. And, it's like I will always find a way through my own personal adversity, whether it's self-inflicted or not, to make sure that I can come out better than what I entered into. It reminds me of a former partner said to me, he called it the rule of holes. When you find yourself in the hole, stop digging. And, that's part of resilience. We dig ourselves holes constantly. And there's puppy duty behind me. And it's fascinating what we find ourselves into. It's just the world is different every time we wake up, and how we have to approach that is just unique and amazing each day. So to a point, resilience has changed for me a little bit, but my core foundational of be stubborn and don't give up still remains. That's the German Irish in me.
Jason, thank you for that. And I think you have to have some bedrock, right? To have that stubbornness to get up and see through every day, because like you said, it can be different, especially in our industry, right? Can wake up to hurricanes, volcanoes, geopolitical events, protests, you name it. It's definitely out there today. So can you share with this audience, and want to thank the audience again for being with us, but from your own experience, is there any way that you could share with us how you've leveraged your personal brand, during a time of adversity?
Right. And for me, personal branding came about via personal adversity. Former role of mine, I had a change in leadership and I struggled with that change. I had lost a really important mentor and executive sponsor to my continuity program. And that next leadership didn't necessarily fully understand what continuity was or appreciate it. They saw my role as a glorified project manager in an organization. And you know what? That's their right. And I respect that mostly. But that created challenges and stress and adversity for me. And that was around a time that I leveraged the DRJ mentorship program to help give me some guidance and talk through my challenges in a safe place. And when I had talked with my mentor, William, and it hit me one day of going, you know what, the only way I'm going to find myself out of this hole is if I promote myself and promote what I believe my abilities and capabilities are, and talk about things that I'm passionate about or want to know more about. So I decided one night, I'm going to start writing 3 times a week on LinkedIn. I'm going to start just basic and write about things that are resilient adjacent, or maybe even personal passions of mine. Like you'll see me write about dogs and animal shelters and things like that often, because it's very passionate to me. I love dogs. I have 2 of them right now at my feet eating treats. Life is good. But, I started writing about things to really refine my thinking as well as to see what my peers thought about what I was writing. Is my thinking in line? Am I out of line? Am I wrong about stuff? And, hoping and, kind of fishing for that engagement and to get that contention. Just like, if I found a great way to get reactions is write about Mark Armour and adaptive continuity and the death of the BIA. And oh my goodness, you get everyone coming out of the woodwork. And it's so awesome because we get to talk through challenging topics and really push our thought leadership on things of, okay, do we need to do a BIA? I imagine we're going to get comments on this of going, oh, that guy, but, just started writing about things. And then that led to start talking about things and reaching out to different podcasts and saying, hey, is there an opportunity that I could talk about a certain subject or things like that? And just keep pushing myself and putting myself out there, being vulnerable and talking about things that are so meaningful to me. I live and breathe resilience. It's more than just a job. It's a career. It's a passion. It's something that I want to do for the rest of my life. So I want to share that passion with others. I figure we all get into resilience in the weirdest of ways. Maybe my writing will inspire somebody to be bold and take a leap of faith. Or maybe some of these chats that I'm putting out online will maybe inspire somebody, or maybe it'll inspire somebody to write me that email that I'm full of it, which is awesome. Because through that contention and those challenges that's when we really get to work through our thoughts and what we believe and refine those concepts or own that we're wrong. And there's no doubt I'm wrong. I'm wrong more than I'm right. And that's great because I celebrate those because that's how I grow. And then I write about that. I own it. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've really appreciated with your writings on LinkedIn is that element of authentic storytelling. And so with that, I think it's been really great to see how you've taken those concepts, related them to your everyday or experiences that you're having, and then really tie in that aspect of resilience. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that personal branding is helpful to individuals, either both for those in the business world or maybe as a consultant or an entrepreneur?
Right. How I see personal branding being helpful to us as professionals is we're a living resume. So we get to talk about our passions and sell ourselves to potentially future opportunities, whatever that may be, as well as just refine what we think about the subjects that we represent and dive deeper. It's like my plan for writing was to not make a plan. Each day on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays when I wake up, those are the days that I write. Not always the greatest, but I work good under pressure. Weird in the resilience industry. That never happens with us. We never work under pressure.
Not at all.
But it's just like, what am I thinking when I wake up? I have a fresh mindset and what is on my mind when I wake up? Okay, great. That's what I'm going to write about. Just like later today, it's a Friday for me. It's just like, okay, I'm writing about personal branding. It's a topic I've been thinking about really deep in the last week or so and going, what does it mean to me and what am I trying to get out of it? And, it means to me to build a reputation. I really believe and see myself as a leader and a thought leader in our industry. And I want to promote that and present myself as that. I also am promoting myself to potentially future employers as well as my current employer. I'm hoping they're watching this and listening to this because it's another way that they get to know me better. And how can they leverage these thoughts and things that we don't necessarily talk about in our one-to-ones and our daily plan developments or tabletop exercises or in the day-to-day. So, it allows my organization, if they choose to view this, to get to know me and what I'm more about in the resilience space and where passions are. And they can play to that strength if they want, or they can ignore it. It's totally up to them. But it's really important. We build our network. We make connections with people. We talk about subjects we're passionate to, and then we use it as marketing. We're our own best salespeople, and we're constantly selling ourselves and our services and products that we offer. As continuity professionals, we're constantly selling the value of our programs. This is no different. This is personal resilience, and I'm constantly trying to sell the value of myself. What can I do for you? What can I bring to the table to add value to what you need? And these are my thoughts behind it and how I can add value.
Yeah. And I think, Jason, it's a little bit of a different maybe approach than people who've been in the industry for a long time might be used to. They might have been on boards or, they work heads down for a particular organization, but it's a bit different to put yourself out there as a professional. And in fact, sometimes it might have been frowned upon in some aspects. But I think it is becoming more of the norm, just as you're talking about, that it is a way not only to share maybe with your current employer, but future employers and other colleagues, of course, is the reason that we do this, to be able to share all of that together. And so I'm thinking about, in our ever-changing business landscape today, how does adapting your own personal brand, how is that part of your own resilience strategy and help you to maintain it over time?
It's part of my strategy for personal resilience is, I'm dependent on being employed. My family's dependent on being employed. So there's the core right there. I've got to sustain the family. So this allows me to apply continuous improvement to myself, to look at the subjects that are meaningful to resilience professionals, to organizations, and get really in tune with them and talk about them and also challenge them. So that's part of it. Is this allows me an opportunity to refine my thoughts and strategy around that. It allows me to build reputation and expand my network as well. And that leads to more personal resilience. Again, keeping gainfully employed, whether I'm a full-time employee, a consultant, or whatever it may be someday. It just allows me to keep selling myself, my capabilities, and what I believe. And that's so important, because we're our own best advocate. And if we're not, there's that puppies again.
Yeah, they're getting into the conversation. No problem.
Yes, one has one pinned down, and they are just having a good time. It's the joy of a 3-month-old and a 15-month-old.
Exactly.
What have I done? Anyways, getting back into it, but it allows me to also adapt. The more I talk about things, and I'll listen to this podcast when it's published and hear myself and critique myself. It allows me to go back. It's just like one thing that hits me, and it's a physical thing. I had Bell's palsy years ago. I still see it every time that I'm watching these. I see a partial droop in my face, and hey, that's okay. But I'm now more aware of it, because I can view that. It's like, I don't need to be sensitive about it. It is what it is. But it allows me to critique myself, to self-improve. I'll share this with my mentor and saying, William, tear it apart, please. Where did I go wrong? Am I looking at the screen, or am I looking at the camera? Am I drifting off over here to the right to look at my notes, or how am I engaging? It's all this wonderful feedback that I just cherish. I love digging through the things that aren't so great and lift those up and celebrate them and going, oh, this is a great area to improve. Or hear my speech cadence, or how I misspeak, or you hear one word in your head and your mouth says another word. And it's like, oh boy, I sure changed the whole meaning of what I was trying to say with that little slip. But yeah, to me, the goal of personal branding really is to stand out, establish credibility, and shape how others perceive us. Because just like soft skills, I'm building relationships here with people that I've never met. And it may not ever have the opportunity to meet. And this may be the only time that they get to hear me rattle on about things and make their judgment about who I am. Maybe a future employer is watching this. I don't know. But my goal is to put myself out there authentically, to talk about things that I'm passionate about, that I believe in, that I want to know more about. And it's fun to share my experiences and the challenges and mistakes that happen through that. It doesn't feel like it's a job or a task. It just feels something that I have to do as a resilience professional, or as a professional in general. If we're not promoting ourselves, nobody else is doing it for us.
Absolutely. I think you made some great points there, and being able to put yourself out there with your own ideas and take that maybe criticism or opposing views and working through those and really challenging yourself in terms of your ideals and your beliefs. And I think you showed a lot of humility and vulnerability in doing that. There's a lot of that out there. But I think the more that those of us are doing that, right, it's going to become the norm out there. And I think it really helps lift up the industry altogether when we're challenging our ideas and moving forward together. So wanted to thank you for all of those thoughts. Hey, is there anything else that you wanted to share with the audience today that we didn't get a chance to talk about?
For me, communication is the cornerstone to everything. If we're not talking about it and also actively listening, hearing others, how can we ever know what our problem is and how can we solve it? If we look at society as a whole and we watch the news cycles, especially when it comes to things political, imagine if they applied active listening and true communication each day, how much better things could be. And imagine if we did that every day, or at least attempted to every day. It's not always possible to be, use emotional intelligence, be active listener, communicate effectively, speak our truth, but not so much that you're trying to convince somebody else that their views are wrong. They also need to be heard. If we all did that regularly, holy cow, resilience would be baked into our everyday, and it would happen because we're using emotional intelligence. We're actively listening. We're communicating effectively, and we're not trying to change hearts and minds, but we're trying to communicate what we're passionate about, and others can make a decision around whether they align with that or not. And, really the real work happens when they don't agree with it. Oh, great. Let's talk about it. That is so much fun. And it's fun until it's not, and that's okay too. But that'd be my biggest takeaway. Make sure we're listening, making sure people are heard, and then communicate effectively around that. And I think if we can do that, we can really do just about anything in the world.
Thank you for ending on that positive note, and really hope that we all do a lot more listening to each other, because I agree the world would be a better place and using that critical thinking as well. So thank you so much for coming back on the podcast. It's been great to have you here and talk with you again. I will link all of your information into the show notes so folks can reach out to you if they want to continue the conversation. And I'll make sure to link to your upcoming article as well. So thank you so much, Jason, for being out there and contributing to the industry. Really enjoyed having you here today.
Well, thank you again, Ashley, for this wonderful opportunity. I am forever appreciative of this. Thank you to the subscribers of Disaster Empire. This is a great podcast and has helped me grow personally and professionally more than you could possibly know. If anybody wishes to get a hold of me and tell me that I'm wrong, I encourage that. I can be found on LinkedIn. Please fill my DMs telling me how I'm wrong, because that's where we can have a great conversation. So thank you again, everyone. Thank you, Ashley. I really appreciate all that you do to support us in this industry and promote resilience.
Talk to you soon.